for that time slot. So I just wanted to update you on that.
Good morning, everyone. This is Angela Montgomery. I'm sitting in for Melissa Bayham. I just thought I'd let you know because Melissa's name is showing.
Thank you.
Hey, Angela, how are you? Hey everyone, I just got a message from my coworker. She told me that there's two Cynthia Bells as attendees. Is it possible, if you're not Cynthia Bell, to change your name, or is there another person here as Cynthia Bell?
Marilee, do we have a quorum yet?
I am not sure. I'm trying to count. I'm not sure if I see Bambi's name. I'm not sure if that's Bambi or someone on her account because I think she was going to be late. So I'm waiting to hear back.
Hi, good morning. This is Jamar Lanier Ennis. I'm Bambi's Assistant Director with GOTA.
Okay, great. Yeah. Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. So I don't think we do quite yet, Miss Mary, but give me 1 second. So I see 6 people and a quorum is 6. Do you want me to go ahead and call roll or do you want to call roll and then we'll know for sure?
Yes, if you don't mind, call roll and we'll see if we can get started.
Sure. So if everybody can turn their cameras on, who is a member of this committee, and I'll go ahead and start roll. Nicole Banks.
Here.
Hi, Nicole.
Good morning.
Melissa Bayham, I believe is absent. Carmen Setner.
Here.
Brenda Kose. Mitch Iddens. Bambi Politzola is absent. Miss Mary Tarver, Chair. Tamisha Sonye.
Torian, present.
Hey, Tamisha. Dr. Phil Wilson.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. And Dr. Hyacinth McKee.
Present.
So that's 6. So you have a quorum.
Well, thank y'all very much for joining the meeting. We'll call the meeting to order and get started.
And I have the virtual meeting protocols hyperlinked as well. If you want to go over those or if you want me to.
If you don't mind, if you could.
Sure. So I'm going to read from the teleconference meeting protocols that the executive committee put out a while back. And if you would like to follow along, it's hyperlinked in your agenda at the top under protocols. Council meetings shall be accessible via Zoom and live streamed on YouTube. Council or committee members will participate via Zoom and shall be considered present when they display a live feed video of their face with their first and last name. Have microphones muted unless called upon by the chairperson. Electronically raise their hand to request the chair recognize them to speak. Once recognized to speak by the chair, their microphone shall be turned on. After speaking, the microphone shall be returned to mute. Guests may participate via Zoom or observe meetings live on YouTube. All public meetings shall be recorded and may be made available for the council's YouTube channel as determined appropriate by the chairperson. Public comments submitted during a meeting via any format below shall be considered. The first one, during a Zoom meeting, guests may electronically raise their hand to request a comment. Upon being recognized to speak by the chair, their microphone should be turned on. After speaking, the microphone shall be returned to mute. Or guests may post comments relevant to the item under consideration in the chat box. Secondly, post comments during the live stream of the meeting on the council's YouTube channel. Or thirdly, public comments of a person's character will not be heard. If the comment continues after being asked to stop by the chairperson, council staff may be instructed to end the meeting. The chairperson will notify the executive committee of this occurrence. Council chair will seek guidance to determine if it is legally appropriate to redact or share the video of the meeting on the council's social media. And that is the virtual meeting protocols. Back to you, Miss Mary.
All right, thank you. We need to, I need to request approval for the April 15th committee summary, if anybody can do that.
You want us just to approve it?
Yes, ma'am. Make a motion to approve it.
I motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Nicole. And I need a second.
Second.
Thank you.
I second.
It was Tamisha.
I hope y'all can hear me. I'm having some trouble with my connection.
We can see you and hear you. Okay, thank you. And we have the agenda, but we've gotten requests to move people and scoot people around. So if y'all just bear with us, we'll go through and get updates from everybody today. It just may be in a different order. So I think, Marilee, you said that Department of Health is not ready at this time.
The Department of Education.
I
So
work at the
Dr.
hospital, so that's my my go-to when I'm talking about departments. Yeah,
No,
sorry.
Dr. Peterson, who has agreed to present on behalf of LDOE to our committee, is running a little bit behind. So I know that we have Angela Montgomery here from Melissa. Angela, are you prepared to present right now?
I am. I really don't have a whole lot to share. Melissa just wanted me to let you all know that we recently hired a Reds in the New Orleans region. So we currently have Reds in every region except Homa and Alexandria.
Alexandria.
Yeah, so we're still working to hire others for those two regions. And I just wanted to also mention that the customized employment pilot with LSU HGC is still ongoing. There are currently 4 staff members that are going through the training, working with their learning partners as they go through. And that's really all we have to share today.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions or any comments about the LRS for the Louisiana Rehabilitation Services that we need to ask for the next meeting or?
Hey, Mary,
Questions?
Nicole Banks has her hand raised.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Nicole?
Yes. So she said that they hired someone in New Orleans and we're looking for someone in Homa and what was the other place?
In Alexandria and region.
Alexandria. Okay,
Yes,
where
ma'am.
can individuals apply to be for that position?
Those positions will be posted on the state civil service website.
Okay. Okay, that's what I want to know. I know some individuals that was interested, so I would pass that information along to them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. I think Julie, the Office for Citizens with Developmental Disabilities is the next thing on the agenda, but I think that they were gonna have to be here at 10 unless somebody's on the call now. We'll have to skip over them.
Hey
Right.
there. I'm sorry. I'm Rosemary,
Oh, hey. Okay.
OCDD. So I had just gotten a message from Julie that said she's not sure that she's going to be able to make it because their meeting is running late.
Okay.
So I feel like I can go ahead and probably give you any information that you're looking for.
Okay.
So I'm not specific. I'm not really sure exactly what you were looking for. I don't know if you guys just had questions you wanted me to answer, or if you wanted me just to kind of give you like a little quick summary of kind of what's going on and where we're at with our vocational or our community employment providers. So however you want to handle it, I'm more than happy to proceed if you would like.
Oh, thank you, Rosemary. Yes, at our last meeting, we had some discussions about the about the sheltered workshops and also about a agreement or something that was being worked on between LRS and OCDD. So any updates or any information, and then if there was other questions, then we can.
Sure. So I'll just fill the MOU in real quick. We are in the process of getting that MOU finalized. It is with in the legal department right now being reviewed. And so once that is done, then it'll be finalized and signatures will be obtained. So I think that we're moving that along as well. So as far as our vocational providers, so, you know, there's a lot going on with them because we've been shut down for the last year and we've had providers open back up. We still have about 23 around the state that are not open providing services. As far as our settings rule, we are still working along with that. We lost a year essentially when we had last year's COVID. We had planned to meet our compliance date March of this year, but because of everyone being shut down and things being kind of crazy and still continuing to be that way, we have pushed it back to 2022. CMS during all of this time pushed it back, actually the final compliance date to 2023. That's March 17th of 2023. We're still looking at March 17th of 2022 to make sure that we have enough time to do any kind of transitioning. If providers aren't in compliance, we'll have to transition them to providers and services that are in compliance. So we have kind of an earlier date for that. Let's see, we still have a handful of providers that are paying a sub-minimum wage. The majority of our providers have moved to minimum wage, that is in group employment. There's no sheltered employment at this time. Let me rephrase that. There may be a couple of holdouts, but by March 17th of 2022, that will be gone away. Our providers had started moving away from the sheltered workshops, meaning the work inside of the workshop or the facility that they were paid a sub-minimum wage or a piece rate. The majority of our providers have exited from that. There are a couple of holdouts, which we've allowed because of all the craziness with COVID. Because sometimes those providers had contracts that they did in-house that were for a company. And then, so they're still trying to figure out how that's going to work out, how they're going to move in. Some have moved into those facilities and do the work there now. And so, but as March 17th, 2022, they will no longer be allowed to do it no matter what. Our group employment will be required to pay minimum wage. The majority of our providers are already doing that. They've already complied with that because they were working to meet that compliance date of this year. So they had already moved people into that. I will tell you that the majority of our individuals that are served through our day programs have not returned to day programs. Our providers are open, but most of them are operating at like 50% capacity. There's a few that are a little higher, like 85%, but no one is fully back to where they were prior to COVID. In fact, I just received word this morning that one provider has shut down again because they're worried about the new variant, and their parish had kind of reached had kind of had a surge, and they were concerned. There's not been any orders to do that. That's just something they did on their own this morning. So, as we continue to try and work through COVID, I'm not sure how things are going to actually play out. We do have Appendix K services right now that allow for virtual services to be delivered, much like we're doing now through Zoom. We did not have a large group of participation with that for various reasons, but we do still have that in place, and that will actually be moved into our waivers as a permanent service. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Still struggling to kind of get back to getting our individuals back out of their, back into day programs. But again, now that we're having a surge, I'm not sure how things will pan out. Specific questions that you have? I think I saw something in that email. Someone was concerned about just a onslaught of referrals to LRS. I don't anticipate that. The majority of individuals that were being served inside of sheltered workshops were receiving what they called pre-vocational services. The majority of them would not necessarily be referrals for LRS. We are actually developing a program within our waivers that we hope to have implemented over the next year that will kind of do what pre-vocational service was meant to do, which is kind of be a time-limited service to do some job preparation, job readiness, kind of do some exploration and discovery with them to try and get them to where someone might want to get a job. We are still working with our group supported employment, same thing, trying to, continue to have those conversations for that they would be wanting to move into individual employment. So, if we can just get past our pandemic and kind of reach another area of normalcy, then hopefully we can start regaining some grounds there and move forward with our plan. So
I was curious, I guess, is it the clients that are hesitant to move forward with the program, like in a program because of COVID, or is it the actual service providers who, I heard you say that one had closed, but is it the service providers or the clients that are the most concerned, do you think?
So the majority, so like I said, the majority of our providers, we have approximately 86 providers in our state. Some have a couple of satellite offices, but I still count them as like one provider. Only 23 have not completely opened yet. And some of those 23 may actually be doing supported employment on, but just haven't opened up the day program. So there's several factors there. Some of it is staffing issues. There's not enough staff, which I'm sure y'all are very aware of. The staffing is terrible right now. You can't get IFS workers, let alone a day program worker. Some of the day programs that actually have both IFS and day program, are staffing their IFS first because they feel that that's, I guess, of higher importance. So staffing is one issue. Another issue is there are lots of people that do not want to leave and go back into an environment. They're just not ready. Families aren't ready for it to happen. And then I will tell you this, I know that this has been something that has been discussed because of the Appendix K and allowing of family to be workers. That's being utilized. And so individuals are staying home with the family, being paid, et cetera. So those were kind of the main things that are kind of holding things from moving forward. Staffing, individuals themselves that are either more medically compromised or older and they don't want to return just yet. And then, you know, that family's kind of holding it back as well. So several reasons there. I think overall, all of the providers would love to open right back up and be able to move forward with some of our services that we're trying to implement now. But that's kind of what's holding us all back.
Does anybody, thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Amir, you have a question in the chat from Ms. Karonda Corley. Oh, well, she
Okay.
has her hand raised, so I guess I'll let her speak.
Okay, all right. Ms. Karonda?
Great morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning.
I have several questions. I'm first and foremost, I'm thankful that she provided that information, but exactly how are you disseminating this information out to the public? I have spoken with many families and many case managers that are not aware of any of this information. I know of plenty of case managers, plenty of companies that cannot disseminate information to our families accurately and provide them with any of this help that they so desperately need because they don't know it. So I really would like to know how exactly are these agencies making sure that this information get disseminated out, not just to the companies that are contracted and the case managers, but also to the families, because it should not be that individuals like myself is having to educate or inform case managers about this type of information. And it should not be that families that attend our DD Council meetings like this one today actually learn this type of information today. This is something we've been in COVID now for over a year, and I continue to ask over and over again, how is information being disseminated out? We already know that there's a large number of people that do not have access to internet. So how is that information being disseminated out? Because we cannot say that we're posting it on websites because it's not on these websites. I look. The list dealing with anything for people with disabilities has not been updated in over 2 years. So I'm just inquiring on how exactly are we ensuring that people in this disability community actually receive access to all of this wonderful information. Thank you.
Specifically, are you talking about the information that I gave, like about the providers? Because the providers are the ones who have been in contact with the individuals, letting them know when they're opening back up. You know, they've kept that information, they've kept that open to, you know, they call the individuals that were, you know, with them prior to COVID. So they have like a list, you know, they have the people that are receiving their services, and that's who they, you know, they call them and ask them these questions. You know, are you ready to come back? You know, how are things going? They've maintained contact with them throughout the pandemic, even though they have not been being, you know, paid to provide services because they've not provided services. As far as, you know, that information, it is always available through our local governing entities. If you know, calling into your local LGE is, I always say, is the best thing you can do, or your first place of contact should be your local governing entity. If your support coordinator is not able to answer your questions or provide you information, or they don't know, your next line is your local governing entity. That's your capital areas, your Acadianas, depending on your region. There's 10 of them statewide. that is your next line of contact that you should be reaching out to find out, any information that you feel, as far as support coordinators not giving you information. Because we do depend on our support coordinators as well as our partner agencies to get information out. Like, we hope that you guys share this information. Even if you just say, hey, there's lots of information, you need to call your LGE or your support coordinator. And if your support coordinator can't help you, we have such a turnover in support coordination. So they may not be as well informed, but someone in their office, their supervisor should be well informed if your support coordinator is not. That's a struggle that I hear from everybody, no matter the agency. It's like getting that information out. How do you get all that information out? We do post it. We send, we put memos out. We, talk with our partner agencies and our support coordinators. We get a ton of calls every day within OCDD state office. We have an email address that's the OCDD-HCBS@la.gov email that we get tons of emails through for people asking questions. So if nothing else, you give them that email and say, send an email to this email address. We put that email out for years now, and it's one that we monitor every day, and someone responds, within the day typically. So, I agree that we probably need a better method. I just don't know what that method is. We put out, like I said, we talk to our partner agencies. We have the email address available. We get it to our stakeholders groups. We get it to our SCs. We get it to our local governing entities. I don't know what else to add to that. I'm more than happy to take back suggestions to my management. Again, I'm just a program manager delivering information about employment because that's what I do. So I'm not sure. And, like I said, Ms. Hagan is tied up with the Capitol today, so I'm not sure what time she'll be able to pop in.
Thank you. That was a great deal of information to help everybody understand different avenues. And of course, we all know in our developmental disabilities world that is a lot of a family's biggest hurdles is sometimes trying to figure out which direction to go and what's best for their families and how to get it started. And I think that the LGEs are probably the best way to do that in most cases. So I appreciate that. And then the email address that you gave us, I didn't write it down, but can you give it to us again and we can put it in chat?
It's OCDD-HCBS@la.gov.
HCBS. Got it. HCBS.
And like I said, it's monitored daily, and we get questions all the time. So it's out there because we get lots of questions, from families and from everybody. So it's not just providers it's everybody. It's families, individuals.
Thank you.
Rosemary, I just put it in the chat. Will you just look and make sure I typed it correctly? That way people can see it.
That's it.
Perfect.
Thank you. Okay.
Mary Nicole Banks has her hand raised.
Miss Nicole.
So I know that Ms. Rosemary was saying that they're trying to come up with a way to get this information out, a more effective way than what we have in place now, correct? So I know that when I was working up in the field and we had to go inside the homes and we had to do all that, we had to document this kind of thing in a system. We had phone call logs. And not only that, we also had our supervisor, whoever they were, they called after us to make sure that these people knew what was going on, what issues they had going on, as far as, what services they needed or what part of the service they wasn't getting. So it is logs that can be looked up and pulled up depending on what system they're using, that they're documenting everything in, that they can see, did they try to get in touch with these families? Did they go out? Like we even, to the part where we couldn't phone call, there was no email, there was nothing. We made phone, like an actual trip to the house to make sure that the person was there, to make sure. So I mean, like I'm sitting here listening to Miss I'm not sure how to say her name. I'm just saying Miss how you say it?
Miss Karonda.
Okay, Miss Karonda. All right. So there is a way that they can pull that up to see who has been contacted, who wasn't being contacted, who still needs to be contacted, in which ways they were contacted. So at least they will know who else we got to get in touch with, who else needs this information. So then at least they can tackle that part of it and they can start, moving this information along, because she's right. Some of this stuff isn't getting to some of the people. So that's just a suggestion if they, want to take that into consideration.
Thank you.
So we still require monthly contact, and during this time of COVID, we've not been in the homes because of COVID, but we've still maintained that monthly contact, at least monthly. It's for some individuals, it's more than monthly, but for, just to maintain that contact, our SCs are required to do that. There is follow-up. Even our LGEs follow up to make sure information is getting out. But again, you may only do a random sample of people. It may not be all 13,000+ of people that you're contacting, so, but we have checks and balances in place for that. I know that we have done surveys with our individuals during COVID time. We've, had surveys completed that SCs had to complete for each of the individuals and enter into SurveyMonkey, because we know not everyone can do it themselves. So, I feel like we've done a good job of getting our information out and getting it, but there's going to always be information that slips through the cracks, that's not quite understood. That's just, maybe you missed that bit of information. Maybe it wasn't delivered, like you needed it to be heard. But I feel like our SCs do a good job, or, we all try to do a good job of getting that information out. And like I said, when you're serving, that many thousands of people, I think that, we're going to have some miscommunications along the way. Again, that's why I think that it's important we get it out to you guys so that you can carry it forth to your groups and so forth and so on. But again, I'm going to bring it back to our LGEs. Our LGEs are always in the loop. They always know what's going on, so if you ever have questions or concerns or anything like that, that to me would be your, who you should contact to figure out what's going on. And then again, like I said, that email, we get lots of emails. We get, please call me email. So, that's appropriate as well. So we just like to, we try to get everything out. We do electronically send things out. We post things on our website, but we know that not everyone has access to that. So, but yes, Nicole, we still try to do kind of what you described there. We, try to make sure we're doing that process and getting everything out to everybody.
Mary, Tamisha has her hand raised and you have a comment in the chat.
Okay. Tamisha?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think if I'm understanding Ms. Courtly right, and me looking from a perspective of a parent with a child, like many other parents, when you're dealing with so many things and you're already overwhelmed, and may not, like she said, have internet service or some other, mechanism of electronic communication. If I'm understanding, I'm thinking she's trying to say that what other way are we making an effort to get this information out to the public, not necessarily just the vendors or the people who are already receiving services. I think she's more or less talking about people who have no idea about how to start and where to start. And I'm a just say this, and I think systemically, being a parent, a lot of our children are in school. I feel like it may be a good idea. And I know I don't think the Department of Education is on here. I'm not sure. I think that may have been one of the people that we said would be late. If there is some kind of way getting that information out at the school level to these families to say, hey, these are the, this is the list of, providers, people who help, just like families helping families. Some of those Office of Developmental Disabilities, though, like a list, because some of those parents are grandparents, caregivers, foster families who do not know where to start for those resources, because sometimes they are calling these places, and there have been times, since we already know we're talking about staffing, where that's even limited for people to be answering questions or comments, and so they're getting kind of led from place to place without having someone to really speak to directly. But maybe shortening that, I guess you could say, the burden of trying to figure out where to begin. But I do remember, having that as a place of direction, having the resources available. And I know, because when I see things on the internet, a lot of families, a lot of people, a lot of advocates are sharing it, reposting it, resending it. But truth be told, some of those families, because of the burden of dealing with the magnitude and the hard copies delivered to our school districts or resource areas, the Children and Family Services offices. And I'm not saying it's not there, but giving them those links to those families, helping families office, having that hard copy in there so that information can be picked up. And also the IEP teams can, discuss those resources with those families. Because I remember, being in that position and not even thinking about where to go. Had I had someone tell me about Families Helping Families when my child, was in the early steps department, those kind of things. I think that's where we're missing the gap of trying to get that information out, if I'm understanding right. But that's just my opinion to share with, from my angle of looking at it. Just some ideas, just recommendations of, where those gaps, not so far as into, the process of the channel of services, because some of them haven't even gotten to that point. They haven't gotten to the Office of Developmental Disabilities. We're trying to get them into the system. So we can't forget about those who, haven't even started. And I think part of that is at the foundation. That's if I'm understanding what Ms. Corley is talking about. Thank y'all for letting me speak.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Yeah, and I see in the comments about Families Helping Families, it is kind of multi-tiered, and it comes at you from all different levels of the information that you get. But I do think that having a way for families to connect, and usually they are either hearing about OCDD or Families Helping Families, and thank goodness they're able to kind of get families going in the right direction. So I do think, and I know that we use our DD Council to try and help get information out about Families Helping Families across the state too. So we'll continue to work on resources. I think that's something that I heard everybody say, like how people find and connect with resources. Thank you. Okay, I see that Dr. Peterson has gotten on the call from Louisiana Department of Education. And so,
Yes.
Yes,
Good
ma'am.
morning.
Good
Yes.
morning.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us today. I know there's been some changes with the department as far as our representative on the DD Council. So you were filling in today.
Yes, Ms. Tarver. And actually, I'm trying to look through all of my boxes on the screen to see if she's on, but one to be able to also introduce to the council, Meredith Jordan, who is with us now at the agency, who will be serving on the council. And this is like her first week, so definitely didn't want to baptism by fire in the sense. So wanted her at least to just be able to join today. I'll just deliver some of the points that Dr. Fletcher left off, but wanted at least her to be able to be on and just kind of observe today, so that the next meeting she'll be able to be the agency representative.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem. So this morning, I think one to pick up somewhat of the conversation, just to add in from the department. I think one of the things, we do have contracts with Families Helping Families to help support students across the regions. I think what I definitely hear is the need for more coordination of care. And that's something that we've been talking about, is like, how do we better do that? Because I think for a parent, there's a lot of different places to get information that somewhat is fragmented. And it's like, how do we do a better job of that? So definitely open to having that conversation with those on the call. But I think it's really about trying to create like more of a cohesive way that we make sure that parents get information at the beginning of the process, right? And even before evaluation, and just in terms of like, how do I know, right? And what do I know, and what resources are there? And how do I get support along the way? And so I definitely think that's the conversation I think we should think about having, of like, how do we create that? How do we have coordination of care for our families as well? One of the things that I have on the agenda as agenda topic to discuss today is just picking up with you all from where Dr. Fletcher left off around our IDEA budget, and just some information there. As you all know, the IDEA Part B 611 budget, we did have that up for stakeholder input and on our website in February, I believe. The final budget was due in May. And so just a couple of points to give some context on the IDEA budget. One is that the budget is, there's a flow through where we give that money directly to our LEAs, or the local education agencies. And that's about 87% of the total award. Then there's also the IDEA set aside funds, which is approximately 11% of the total award. And this is managed at the actual state level. And then there's just 2% that is allocated for state admin, right? So majority of that, we want to make sure that everyone is aware, that goes directly to our systems. And so this year, the total award amount was $248 million. And so that is our total award. And I believe Dr. Fletcher, in reading kind of the transcripts of where she left off, we had received some indication that there might be more money than what we initially had budgeted for. What we did find out is that there wasn't any additional money in the IDEA 611. So the budget in which we put up for public comment and people's stakeholder input and all of those pieces was the actual amount that we received. What we did receive, however, was additional funds through the American Recovery Plan, the ARP. And in that, we received $41 million. That $41 million from the American Recovery Plan, that actually goes directly to systems, so that there's no set aside at the state. That specifically goes to the system. So that's $41 million that's going to the actual LEAs, the systems. And I see that there's a question in the chat around what was the budget amount. Was $248 million. That was the IDEA Part B 611 was $248 million. And the additional funds that Dr. Fletcher discussed was through the American Recovery Plan, and that was $41 million. And that goes directly to the systems. And so we're really excited about that being able to go directly to the systems and making sure that they're able to support their students and families in that way. And so our budget was approved. We received the stakeholder input, made adjustments from there, and then was able to submit that, and that budget was recently approved. And so at the beginning of the month, we received notification of that. So at that point, systems, our finance office and federal programs office will begin working with systems for them to begin to get those allocations to their systems.
So are there any guidelines or directions about how the money can be used and what part of that will be, I guess, a budget for those things so that we can kind of track and see how the funding and then the additional funding is helping with our kiddos?
Yeah, so with the IDEA budget, there are required activities and authorized activities that are required and allowable, and same thing for the ARP. There's specific things that are allowable. I don't have that list in front of me to be able to give you point by point for the allowability there, but there are specific allowable expenses in all of those.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll open up for questions about that. Was there any questions for Department of Education about the IDEA budget?
Tamisha has her hand raised.
Oh, okay. Tamisha?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Peterson, I probably have a question that everybody else is kind of having. I know you say you don't have the information on the required and allowed activities, but is that information posted somewhere online where we can find it and the public can find it, or to go and look it up, or how would we be able to obtain this information, as in the guidelines on how what's allowable and what activities are allowed?
Yep, the IDEA, those are allowable by federal expenses. So that I will check on our website. It has been posted. I'll just make sure that it's still up there in terms of, we've had it posted for a while now, but I'll make sure it's still up there so you can see the allowable expenses based on like the required and authorized ones.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And actually, it's the special education funding page. I'm just looking through my notes. There's a special education funding page and it has an outline there.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Mary, you have a couple of comments in the chat, and Miss Brenda Cosse has her hand raised.
Miss Brenda?
Oh, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. Brenda Cosse, Louisiana Developmental Disabilities Council parent. I do apologize, but my hand was raised earlier because I wasn't able to get into the session and I was having extreme technical difficulties. That's why my hand was raised earlier.
Well, I'm glad you made it. Sorry for the difficulties. Thank you. Okay, did you say there was
Yeah, there's some questions and some comments in the chat. The first question is, will LDOE form a group to help with how they should utilize these monies under IDEA?
Yes, so as stated, this was open in February. So in February, all this information was provided, be it SEEP Council, Dr. Fletcher discussed it on this call as well, and our monthly calls as well. All this was posted as it relates to, we are required to get public input from our budget. And so that was posted in February through May. And so based off of that input, we put a draft up. We received stakeholder input, made adjustments to that and based on that input. And that's what was submitted in May and approved by the U.S. Department of Ed.
Okay. Dr. Hyacinth McKee says, please provide the guidelines on how this money will be spent in writing.
That again is online. It has already been done. It's also related to the IDE federal funding. So it's not anything that we are creating. It is federally required.
There are a few more questions. Ms. Karonda Corley says, when will SEEP meet to address the BESI minimum requirements for children with disabilities in the school arena?
The next SEEP meeting, I believe, is going to be held in September. And also want to state to this group, we are in the process of, if people are interested on serving on our SEEP panel, which is our Special Education Advisory Panel. We've had several members to roll off. Our bylaws do require that we do have representation across the different regions and from different people, community members. And so if you are interested in wanting to get any more information there, I will put an email address in the chat. It will be ashley.augustine@la.gov. I'll put that in the chat. If you are interested or have someone that is interested in potentially serving on that committee, which is our Special Education Advisory Panel, we would love to get you that information application so that we can get more representation. So I'm going to drop the email address in the chat now.
Thank you.
There are a couple of more questions. Dr. Charlie Michelle asks, does the SDE post financial transactions on LouisianaCheckbook.com?
I am not sure. I could ask with our finance department, but that's not something that we do in terms of special education. So I'm not sure.
Okay. Ms. Karonda Corley asks, will the subgroup data be provided to the public?
When we're talking, I'm not sure what subgroup data we're speaking of.
I will allow her to speak.
Great morning, Madam Chair. Dr. Peterson, it was the subgroup that that they had with various parents across the state that are parents of children with disabilities, and they met in regards to LDOE, where they were able to disclose what problems the school arena is having and how LDOE could better serve our children with disabilities. They did state that they were going to provide that data back to LDOE and that they were providing it in a way in which it could be shared with the public, but the public has not been able to access it in any shape or form. And so I'm just inquiring on if we would actually be able to get that information.
Ms. Corley, what group did you say that was that met?
It was several, it was a subgroup that that LDOE actually paid, they outsourced and paid an entity to actually collect that data. The information was actually shared by the DD Council also to the public. They actually helped with disseminating that information out, and we had approximately 100 parents throughout the state that actually actively participated in those subgroups and provided information. And I'm just inquiring on when that data will be accessible, because that's been over 5 months since those subgroups actually met.
Are you speaking of not the subgroups? Are you talking about the focus groups? The
Yes,
focus
ma'am.
groups. Okay, got it. Yep. Okay. Yes, we do have that report, so I'll make sure that you all get a copy of it.
Thank you. We'll put that on our agenda for a follow-up.
Okay, that works. Yep.
The next quarter.
Dr. Peterson,
We'll share it, but
Dr. McKee asked, can you please post the link in the chat? I think she's referring to how the monies will be spent. You said you can find it on the website. If you can you please post the link in the chat. And then I think Ms. Corley had one more question about what will LDOE put in place to allow individuals with disabilities to actively participate in BESI meetings?
Yep, that question actually should be best answered by the BESI staff. They handle any BESI meetings. It's not us. We work with our special education in terms of at the school site. That is a question that should be directed to the BESI staff.
Okay, is there any other chat or hands raised?
Marilee, did you have a clarification question?
Yes, thank you, Ebony. I wasn't clear. It sounds like Ms. Corley and Dr. Peterson understood each other, but what is this focus group that we're gonna get follow up on at the next meeting, just so I can ensure that I have that down in my notes and I can make sure we have it on the agenda?
Yeah, I think it was in January or maybe even before that, that we had the information about the focus groups that they were doing throughout the state and parents were signing up.
LDOE focus groups, is that right?
Right. Yes.
To help with some strategic planning in terms of the focus areas for special education program and potentially reorganizing the office. Yeah.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you.
Then Mary Tamisha has her hand raised.
Okay, Miss Tamisha.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure we didn't overlook Miss Susan from Families Helping Families and Miss Canino's comments in the chat. I know it was, I think we kind of just went forward with Dr. Peterson when we were talking about some stuff, but they had gave some good information regarding, the filling in the gaps for parents to get information. So I just wanted to make sure we addressed that before we got too far.
So I can read the comments, Mary. Susan from Families Helping Families of Southwest Louisiana said this would be for more general information, but don't forget the Families Helping Families network to help get out info to families through websites, newsletters, etc. And I think that was in regards to Miss Rosemary Morales's presentation. And then if I go down, Miss Kathleen Canino says maybe Families Helping Families could do a video that the school districts could share on the school website and social media, just introducing themselves and explaining what they do. And Dr. Peterson has added the link about the funding in the chat as well.
Perfect, thank you.
Tamisha, did you have another question? Your hand's still raised. Okay.
I'm sorry, no ma'am.
It's fine.
Okay. We've skipped around so much. Let me. All right, I think the next thing is our updates on our contractual activities. Is that right, Marilee?
Yes, ma'am. That's what's next.
Perfect.
We're a little bit ahead
Okay.
of schedule. I do see that Devika is here with O'Neill Communications.
Okay.
And that is the first contractual update. So I can open it up and then let her give her presentation, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
So the next, the last part, the last piece of updates on our agenda like Ms. Mary said, are the contractual activities, and these are for FFY 2021 action plan. So that's our council's action plan from October 1, 2020 to September 30th, 2021. So the first activity that falls under education and employment is within that action plan, activity 5.3.3, seminars on hiring individuals with developmental disabilities. You can click on the hyperlink in the agenda FFY 2021 action plan if you wanted to read the specific activity. So I'll just open it up on employment, and then I'll let Devika jump in. If everybody remembers from our last committee meeting, our contractor O'Neill Communications was working on scheduling the employment seminars in the remaining regions that weren't scheduled, which was regions 110, 4, 5, 6, and 9. And we were lucky to have Sue Killam on, who's with LSU HDC. She was here as a proxy for Phil Wilson, and she volunteered to help us connect with some people in the New Orleans area. So that was done. Inclusive employment webinars have been secured in all 10 regions, and they're customized for each region. So again, I really want to thank LSU HDC and Ms. Sue for helping us with that. If you missed a webinar from your region, in other words, if that webinar's already been done, we had it set up so that you can still access that recorded webinar. And that's all on our website. Another suggestion that came at our last committee meeting was to streamline and this was from Ms. Tamisha Victorian, was to streamline the clicks that you have to go through to get to the page on the webinars. The way it was prior was there was one page that described it and a different page to see the webinar dates and registration and things like that. So we did take that suggestion. So the route to the Inclusive Employment Webinars site is streamlined. There's only one site that has the description and the ability to register. And it's on the banner of our website, laddc.org. It's right there in a banner. So you can easily get to it if you just go straight to our website. You click on that banner, it takes you to the site that has everything. If you look at the status report, the final status reports, which is a different document for the full council meeting, you can read all the specifics of what I just said. And if there's any questions for me, I can take them, or we can open it up to Devika and Gordon, who have their own little update presentation for you as well.
All right, Devika.
Unmute helps. Hi, good morning, everyone. Marilee, would you be able to throw up our presentation? I don't know if oh, I can share, yes.
You got it?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Everyone, can you see my screen? It's a PowerPoint presentation. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So hi everyone, I'm Devika, Devika with O'Neill Communications. We have been working on the employment webinars as well as the video projects, the videos for LADDC, which I'll be presenting on tomorrow, and to the other committee. We are here to do a report on the webinars and their progress. My colleague Gordon has been leading this initiative and will be kind of taking the lead from here on the progress we've made, the success the webinars have had, and some points of improvement that we can think about of taking it to the next level. So I'll actually hand it off to Gordon now, and thanks for having us on here.
Thank you, Devika. Can you go to first slide, please?
Yeah.
So we started on this project and set some very specific goals that we were trying to accomplish. One, we wanted to communicate to employers, and that was our target market, employers, as opposed to consumers or parents or anything like that. And step-by-step strategies to successfully recruit, hire, and retain people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in an inclusive and competitive work environment. And we really stressed that, kind of would talk a little bit about the sheltered evolution from sheltered type of employment to where we're trying to achieve today. We also wanted to provide employers access to a unique pool of potential employees who offer a diversity of skills, who are eager, reliable, and committed to succeeding in a competitive and integrated workforce. We also wanted to allow them to do it themselves, to rely heavily on Louisiana Rehabilitation Services, or to seek out independent consultants that might help them along with this type of program. Next. Just a couple of comments about curriculum development. We used a number of sources, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. I submitted our curriculum to Rosemary Morales, who's been on this morning. Staff, Jeff Arsenault, and one or two others all commented and tried to improve or offered improvements to the curriculum before it was adopted. We ended up with a 28-page booklet that offers them a long list of other resources that they can go to beyond our booklet if they so desire. Very proud to say that the curriculum was approved by the Human Resource Certification Institute and SHRM for continuing education credits. And Desiree Provost who's the president of Acadiana, SHRM was responsible for that. So we thought that was a very good endorsement of the quality of that curriculum. Next. The curriculum was developed primarily relying on three sources. SHRM. SHRM is the Society for Human Resource Management. It's a national and international organization that really focuses on human resource management. They do a tremendous amount of work in employing people with cognitive disabilities, physical disabilities, all those types of things, and have any number of research papers and documents that were valuable in developing the curriculum. That was, of course, enhanced further by Louisiana Rehabilitation Services Guide to Vocational Rehabilitation. And then we also depended on ODEP, which is the Office for Disability Employment in Washington, for much of our content. And so I think it was a very thorough and appropriate curriculum that served us well. Next. We then kind of started out to develop partners to help us promote the webinar series. And I first started out trying to get all the chambers, and there was 62 of them. And we really didn't get much of a response. I didn't know whether it was poor brand recognition, but it also is in the early or later stages of the COVID pandemic. And we know in some cases, people just weren't actively engaged in some of this type of work. And so it was almost disheartening at points. So then we reduced it down and handpicked the largest chambers in each region, focused on those larger chambers, and just had to be very, very persistent in reaching out to them via email, phone messages, and those types of things. And so a lot of persistence went into this. I think Mary Lee just mentioned Susan Killam. She was critical in really re-energizing the entire program. She introduced me to Evie Pointevent Sanders, who's a human capital manager at Greater New Orleans, Inc. And she immediately gave me like 40 names throughout the state, emails, and sent them emails under her signature saying, we need to get behind this. And it all of a sudden, we just started, our sales started getting full and our momentum moving forward. And so I was glad that she was recognized earlier, but I cannot say enough about those two women and their support of our efforts. What they did basically was shared our emphasis in the promotion on economic development and workforce development type organizations, as well as the local chambers. Some chambers are very active in that area and some are not. Also would like to just mention Ashley Llewellyn, which was one of the people that Evie Sanders pointed us to, the St. Tammany Corporation. She jumped in and did a yeoman's job in getting us moving forward. So it was really a very momentous event when we got those introductions. And so now we have a pretty large contingent involved in promoting the Jefferson Greater New Orleans event, which is later this month on the 28th, I believe, Tuesday the 28th. And so we already have 40 plus registrants, which will be, of course, and it should have been by far and away our largest. Next, please. So we created a targeted promotion effort. We created a campaign logo, working together, which you can see down in the corner of our slides, built the website, built a Zoom registration system. So we had to build the infrastructure for this campaign from the beginning. We bought an email list of 22,000, almost 23,000 Louisiana companies and organizations with 15 or more employees, segmented by each of the 10 regions. And so that allowed us to start focusing our message on organizations that may or may not be members of the chamber, may or may not be involved with economic development and that type of thing. We also, we partnered with local chambers and the SHRM chapters. Not all of them got really behind it, but especially early on, it was hard to, that goes back to coming out of that COVID situation. It was hard to get people to really quickly engage with us. And so while it was frustrating later on, we really started doing much better with the SHRM chapters. And then we've, of course, as suggested, expanded our internal promotion to focus on economic development and select employment organizations as opportunities arose. So perhaps in one area, we might find that Goodwill really wants to get involved with it, and so we thus allow them to do so. Next. So our presentations were originally designed to go 60 minutes. We find that they really end up going sometimes as many as 75 minutes. Registrants receive a reminder email the day of the event with a curriculum booklet and a brochure on Louisiana Development Disabilities Council. We generally have 3 to 4 presenters. I'm the primary presenter. And so our firm not only has developed the curriculum and what have you, we've also gone out and are very active in bringing in students from college and that type of thing in what we call a NIPSE program, post-secondary program, having them come in as interns and helping train them and getting them job ready. So it's not, we don't just, talk the talk, we try and walk the walk. And so we are ourselves employers. Jeff Arsenault was a 2019 recipient of the Convince Memorial Award from the governor. And he was kind of the color man. He was a guy that He has cerebral palsy. He's in his later 40s, and he will jump in and say, you know, Gordon, you mentioned this, and he will add his personal experience and how that's impacted him in his career and those types of things. So, you know, we didn't want to get to that dry professor presentation. We wanted to break it up. We generally introduce somebody from the chamber or the local economic development group, and they give an overview of the employment situation and why it might be so critical to start really looking for new avenues for employees. We always, each one had the regional manager or perhaps what's called a red specialist on the call, and they all just brought a great deal of authentic information and experiences to each presentation, and all of them have done extremely well. And I think Melissa Bayham, I saw her was on the call earlier. It's all her people that work for her, and they all did a great job. And those that we could get SHRM representation, we've engaged them, and they always bring a little bit more added depth to whatever the presentation is. Next. So the results, we have sent out over 87,000, almost 88,000 promotional emails just from the campaign in all 10 regions of the state. We had an average open rate of 15.4%. So if we sent out 1,000, 154 of them would open it. Not necessarily, and then each time, so we'd sent each one 4, trying to get them to register. And when each one continued to maintain a 13 to 16, 17% open rate. And then they averaged a click-through rate of 4.4%. So we made that investment and felt like it was significant, produced a consistent result. So we'd recommend continuing that in the future. We are already we've completed all but the Jefferson, New Orleans event, and that is scheduled later this month. We already have over 40 people registered in it. And so we'll have served over 130 participants and included 30 local area experts serving as our panelists. Next. Just a couple of comments. I understand that employment is a major objective within the 5-year plan. And I think what we did this year was a good basis to launch from and continue to grow an employment strategy for employers. So I think you need, employers, you need people with disability strategies, and all those are different approaches. But in the beginning, I think more collaboration on the strategic planning would have been helpful. So if I'd gotten Sue Killam's input early on and some others, golly, I think we would have just been able to more quickly give the momentum that we ended up with. I say LADDC appears to lack a strong brand recognition across the state. I don't know if that's true or not. Part of it was we had difficulties with COVID, but we did work similar to this in North Carolina, and we had a big name person within state government to lead the project. And so my name would never have come up in that case. We always, used that person's name. It was the Secretary of Health and Human Services. And so she could pack a room. We were doing those on site, and she would just pack a room. I mean, she'd have 100, 120 people there. And the message was about employment and that type of thing, and how employers can take advantage of this great opportunity. So perhaps more emphasis in the future on building your own brand recognition for LADDC. It's just a thought. I'm not sure whether I misinterpreted how strong your brand recognition is, but I didn't get the sense everybody knew who you were. And frankly, the project wasn't adequately funded. We gave far more hours than we were paid for. The email list, the ASL cart services. So all of our presentations had ASL and cart services provided. And just the number of hours required and sheer persistence was pretty well unexpected, but that's quite all right. Just in closing, I just would like to, next please. Just comment, these were our participating chambers: Monroe, Houma, Terrebonne, Beaucier, Baton Rouge Area Chamber, St. Tammany Corporation, St. Tammany Chamber, Chamber of Southwest Louisiana, Central Louisiana Chamber, one Acadiana, Diana, and Jefferson Chamber and Greater New Orleans, Inc. And one more. And then these are the economic development people that we were introduced by Evie, and really has brought a whole new momentum to it. So that's a brief overview of what we've done. And if there's questions, I'd be happy to answer what I can.
Thank you for that. It looks like a lot of great work and effort went into being involved with that employment seminars and just a great way to get word out to employers of the great work that so many people that are in the DD community can offer to employers. So I appreciate all that hard work.
Well, thank you.
Have any questions?
Bambi has her hand raised.
Okay, Bambi.
Hi, everyone. So is this, I am sorry, I came on late, I had another meeting, but is this, this project, are we voting to fund it again? Is that part of our recommendation to fund it next year?
I don't know where we are with the planning committee moving into the next action plan and activities, but I made a note to by 5.33 to say that we needed to continue to fund it and look at how we need to continue it.
And since I was only able to hear about half of the, well, I actually kind of heard the whole presentation, but was walking part of the way. You know, as far as the last few slides about getting some big names, like, you know, probably could get with the governor or someone with economic development behind it to help push that. I think whenever I received outreach, like it was during the legislative session, which is in the first few months of the year. So some of that, you know, I think what you said about the COVID, and then also with legislative session, which is usually between March and June, it's really difficult to get with people at the state level to be engaged outside of the legislature, so, or legislative process. So maybe if we start early, if it is funded again, we could build something, you know, to get more outreach.
Yeah.
It may be in the fall and winter months.
Yeah, I hadn't been aware of that. Thank you. That's a good point.
Mary, there is a question in the chat from Ms. Karanda. She says, are we depending on the employers to seek DD employees? If so, then how will the DD community know how to apply?
So a big part of in that where we talk about customizing each presentation, I start out researching those organizations within those regions that might be instrumental in connecting people with jobs. Families First is one that we tell them to seek out. Let them know that you've got job openings and are open to applications. And so that is an example. I suggest that they can all start with LRS. And, I think every one of the rehabilitation spokesperson said, I always have a reservoir of ready to go to work people. So we always encourage them to start there. They can go to Goodwill, and we identify all of those things. And then some of those like Go Jobs and people like that, or organizations like that. So we try and give them, and that was that key step-by-step approach. We need to show them how to do it, where to go to connect with people that might fit this bill, both for them and from the developmental disabilities side of viewpoint.
Yeah, and as part of our 2021 action plan, this was an activity that was part of that. We were trying to increase the developmental disabilities community to have successful, competitive, integrated, individualized employment. And so one of the ways that we wanted to help support that was to provide financial support to conduct seminars with chambers of commerce throughout the state on the benefits of hiring people with developmental disabilities. And we had $32,000 in the project. So that's how, as we move through the processes each year of doing our planning committees and do our action plan and fund things, this was one of those things that were funded with an idea on how do we get employers to recognize that there are employees in the DD community that are great assets to have for your company. And it was a matter of trying to help put together a program which had not been done before. So it took a lot of groundwork to get this going for all the different chambers of commerce and others that were reached out to get the project kicked off. So this was the first of the seminars, and certainly is something that we'd like to, continue, but that will, that'll move forward with our future planning committees. But it is definitely something that we want to recommend from our group, I think, since it was successful and continues to have some momentum to be built and that it can move forward. So we don't want to lose this, this idea and this, the way that the seminars were rolled out and that kind of stuff. So more to come on that, but that's the project began through one of our activities.
And if I might just close by saying Tuesday, the 27th is the last of the webinars. It's the Jefferson Chamber of Commerce at 10 a.m. You can go onto the website and register there, and you can enjoy it and experience it yourself.
So Mary, Ms. Karonda had a follow-up question for Mr. O'Neill. She's asking, is this including employers that will provide equitable pay?
Yes. In all of the LRS type programs that we promote during it, that is a requirement. And that is a requirement of LRS throughout. And so for them to get some of the reimbursements and things like that, they have to be paying a person that may be disabled at the same rate they would be paying anyone else. And so, yes.
All right, thank you. Anything else?
Thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Gordon and Devika. Y'all did a great job and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Marilee. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks. I see a comment from Ms. Corley. I'm sorry, Ebony, I don't know if you saw it. I didn't mean to jump in on what you were doing. She says, can the DDC provide the information regarding the last webinar out for the public? So, Ms. Corley, do you want to speak?
She wants the, I think the information from what Gordon was just saying, that the 27th.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just wondering how she wants to do it. We could do like another social media post. We've done a couple different social media posts promoting the webinars. And then we did some, I think, an LADDC news or two.
And it's to get employers to the seminars so that they can understand different avenues to reach people with developmental disabilities and other disabilities that can be hired by their organization.
Right. Yeah, we can maybe do one more social media post if that's amenable.
Thank you. Okay, next, I think I'm excited about this. The Dr. Becker's, I think I saw you. Yeah, hi. To give us an update on the Louisiana Post-Secondary Inclusive Education Alliance.
Good morning, everybody. I shared a video with Marilee, and hopefully she can get it to go at the end. Let me give a little background for those you might not be familiar. When we started with this funding in the fall of 2019, we had 3 universities, Southeastern, Nichols, and UL at Lafayette, who had post-secondary programs, and 2 community colleges, Bossier Parish and Baton Rouge Community College. Of all those programs, Baton Rouge Community College was not a CTP. A CTP is a Certified Transition Program, which means we meet the federal accreditations to have rigorous programs and accountability. So right now we have 5 schools because CTP was gained by Baton Rouge Community College. So we have 3 universities and 2 community colleges that are CTP programs, which the big picture is the students who attend can receive Pell funding, and there are standards that have to be met. So that's kind of a little background of it. Now, the good news is LSU at Alexandria is ready to go. They're going to start their program in the fall of 22. So we've added a university. I have been working diligently with Dr. Danielle Williams at Grambling. She wants a program. We're struggling with buy-in from the university, but that's okay. We're never going to say stop. So we're working diligently. UL at Monroe, Dr. Anita Sherman, is up and running, and her president of hers has actually taken it as one of his initiatives to get a PSE, a post-secondary program at UL and Monroe. And just like 2 weeks ago, I started with Letty Goins at McNeese, and I'm going there next week to sit down with her to kind of promote a program at McNeese. So if we go, that would be adding 4 more programs. So I'm kind of really, really excited about that. My dean, Dr. Paula Calderon, has been working with me, helping me with the deans of other colleges across the state to kind of advocate at an administrative level for post-secondary education. So I'm really happy with the direction we're going in including with the pandemic, we have made a lot of progress, I think. Oh, I don't think, I feel we've made a lot of progress improving our post-secondary education in Louisiana. So some concerns that we have, one big concern is Think College, which kind of governs all of these programs, put out accreditation standards, which the new programs that are coming on, we're working within those standards to make sure their programs align with accreditation. The existing programs, with Southeastern being one, our CTPs were written a certain way, which how we got approved. We're going to have to go back and relook at the accreditation to make sure we meet this, because they're not always going to align with how our CTP program was granted. This could be a problem because those of you who know anything about accreditation and universities, it's a big part of university life is accreditation. So that I don't know how those post-secondary programs are going to fit into the new accreditation standards. Another big piece, and we actually, the LAPI met yesterday, I had a monthly meeting yesterday. We really want to take an initiative on a legislative initiative for future funding of post-secondary programs. I don't know if you guys are probably not familiar, and I'll share this with Marilee, maybe she can send it out. The Florida had their Developmental Disabilities Council actually has worked in 2016 to get legislative funding that supports PSE programs. We collectively as an alliance think the biggest problem is funding. A lot of schools would do programs, but the funding doesn't exist as far as supporting these types of program. And another big fear is that because we're at all of our universities, university systems, the current administrations support these programs, but what happens if our administration changes? With a swipe of a pen, they could get rid of our programs on campuses or within systems. So we really, again, want to take the initiative to work with our legislation to maybe get something similar to what Florida has. And I know I've had a couple conversations with Bambi, and she's been very much an advocate for us to help us get we're educators by nature. We're not politicians. I've learned a lot about the political field during this, so that's something that Alliance wants to do. The next is to really push to get support to get us permanent, so we can't be wiped away with a budget or wiped away on our campuses because we got new presidents or new leaders. So that would be, the next line of, I guess, an agenda we have on as an alliance. We meet monthly. It's a good group of people, a lot of people who are just supporting and they want these programs. Even the universities or the colleges that don't have them, they want them. And the want is there, the desire is there. We each agreed before our next monthly meeting that we're going to develop like an advisory board of parents and business partners and our students who've come through our programs to kind of form that advocacy group to go out to work with our local districts to let our people know, our legislators, our senators, what a PSE program is. And kind of, hopefully with the video, hopefully Marilee can get it going, but the video, you can see that the buy-in is just phenomenal. So I guess, I don't know if you want to show the video first and then open questions, or what, you just tell me how you want to progress from here.
I can share it.
Okay, great.
I have the link.
It's like 3 minutes long, and I hope you guys will be like it. I love it. So. And there's closed captioning. I think you might have to click the button, but it is closed captioned.
So I've never shared a screen with a video playing, so we'll see if it works.
It looks like it's working.
I'm gonna press play and see if you guys can hear it. Can y'all hear that?
I'd have to hit
the Louisiana Alliance of Post-Secondary.
What's that, Dr. Becker?
Closed caption. I don't know if you push the closed caption or if they push it on their own.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Secondary Inclusive Education, also known as LAPIE, was formed to increase the post-secondary educational opportunities for students with disabilities in Louisiana on both 2- and 4-year university and college campuses. Southeastern Louisiana University, Nichols State University, and the University of Louisiana at Lafayette offer post-secondary programs for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities.
This allows students to build self-esteem, build communication skills, work on independence, work on communicating with others. That way they can become contributing members of society.
To see them interact and then you have the ability to say, oh my God, I'm on Southeastern's campus. Like, I'm an actual student out of college. They get so happy and like, oh, so excited.
I saw different students grow into successful people and like just grow as a person.
Everybody has a calling in life, and I think each calling needs a try. Being in a different position that will help them to grow in their education, to grow as a person.
Students take general education courses, the same as other students on campus. They participate in all the activities and services available on campus. They choose their own courses, activities, and internships with varying levels of support.
It's my first time from college. I don't like college so much. Oh, can be a student that knows because it helps me live independently.
It shows you how to be independent and how to actually do things on your own.
It is my absolute pleasure to present the candidates who have completed 4 years in Southeastern's Inclusive, Comprehensive Post-Secondary Transition Program for students with intellectual disabilities and have earned their certificate of completion.
They participate in commencement ceremonies alongside their peers without disabilities. And they receive a true college experience while preparing to become contributing members of society.
Self-advocacy, self-confidence, independence, self-sufficiency, those are positive outcomes of the Lions Connected program. And these are what we can offer Lions Connected students. They learn how to adjust, how to work with others, how to advocate for themselves. And then on the flip side, all of us on campus learn how to give them a chance.
Just like any other student, they are fully a member of our family, and I think that's very important.
LAPIE sets the standards for Louisiana post-secondary inclusive education, develops resources to assist in the creation of new post-secondary programs, and provides mentoring and technical assistance to new programs in Louisiana. We all play a vital role in improving inclusive post-secondary opportunities for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities in Louisiana.
That's it. Thank you for showing that.
That's awesome.
So we're really proud of that. And I mean, again, I believe we've made.
Welcome, distinguished guests, faculty, and grad.
That's not me. Great gains, even with the pandemic working. I mean, we just work continuously, and be able to work virtually helped a lot. And each of us, as we went through the pandemic, how do we deal with, as all of us, how do we deal with the pandemic? How do we do a program like this with a pandemic when we have to have mentors with our students? It's just, but we did it. We're making progress. So I guess I can answer questions or.
Yes, Mary, Dr. McKee has her hand raised and Ms. Nicole Banks has her hand raised.
Okay, Dr. McKee.
I just don't have a question. I just wanted to say Dr. Becker's awesome work. I actually had an opportunity to meet with the dean of a community college about 3 days ago, and we were just singing your praises and hoping that LaPie can get to that community college. And so maybe offline, I'll send you an email to let you know that community college. But the work is exceptional. That young man in the video saying each calling needs a try. I would love to get his name and get his permission to use his quote moving forward on everything, because each calling needs a try. The work that was put into this vision that the DD Council, just was talking about and spoke about 2 years ago is exceptional, the amount of work, Dr. Beckers, that you and your team has put in. I do want to say that, is it Mary at Nichols State as well? Her team, she does a lot of work closely with you. And it seems like there's some more work that we need to do to help support this vision in terms of getting the legislation involved to make sure that this stays inside of our budgets. Now, as it relates to accreditation, and I'm sure there are my colleagues on the line that may not be familiar with that, but what Dr. Beckers is saying is that our push is to make sure that programs like this is recognized at the accreditation level. We want our scholars to get more than just a certificate. We want our scholars to work towards a degree, so they can have a degree. And so as we honor you, Dr. Beckers, for this work, but we will stand behind you to push that our scholars get a degree. And that means that's going to require us to get aligned with these accreditation bodies to make sure that these programs are recognized. So again, hats off Dr. Beckers and her team. And I will send you an email about that community college and that dean's information because they have expressed interest as well. Thank you for your time.
So this again, this activity was on our FY21 action plan to provide financial support to establish the Post-Secondary Inclusive Education Alliance, to provide for mentoring and technical assistance, host training events, and develop resources designed to build the capacity of Louisiana post-secondary institutions in providing inclusive post-secondary education opportunities for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities throughout Louisiana. And in FY21, we allotted $40,000 for that activity.
Miss Nicole Banks has her hand raised, and Miss Tamisha Victorian, and you have a couple of comments in the chat as well, Mary.
Okay, let's start with our committee members. Miss Nicole.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. Ms. Beckers, the issue that you were having with Gremlin was what again? I missed that part.
I have a faculty member, Dr. Danielle Williams, and she's gung-ho, and we actually tried to submit a TIPSIT grant because last year was a TIPSIT funded year federally. She's not getting the support she needs on her campus. Because this is not a one-person event.
I know.
And, I don't know how familiar everyone is with universities, but, the chain of command exists within universities and we have to follow that chain of command. So that's why my dean is trying to get involved to reach out to deans at the next level. But if we can't get the support to the top, I say we collectively, then programs like this are hard to establish. So Dr. Williams and I are working and we've written stuff and we worked and she's presented stuff. And I'm going to, now that we're allowed to travel again, I'm going to go up and maybe meet with, with her, with a group of people. But there's always that fine line when you meet with people that you don't, between being assertive and being aggressive. And assertive about the types of programs without being aggressive, but the need of this type of program. And Dr. Williams, she wants it. And we're actually trying to work with, I think it's Lincoln Parish, trying to get the K-12 asset, because you can do a feeder type program into a university-based program. So we're trying every avenue to get a program started. And she's not giving up and we're not giving up, but we're just being very assertive, not aggressive.
Okay, I'm just asking because I'm a Grambling alum. So, if there's anything that I can do, I know some people.
Right, get on board.
I'm just saying.
Yes, and if you can, my email address is gbeckers@selu.edu. Send me your contact, and then when I go, maybe if you want to join us to go to help advocate for us, I mean, you know, that's what it takes. It takes a family or village
Yes.
to get things like this going. So
I just know that with my university, if they see someone that has already graduated and is already working towards this stuff, that is a part of Grambling already, they are more likely to hear the information. Not saying that they wouldn't before, but I'm saying if they see one of their own that's really behind it, and then I sit on the council, I mean, yeah, we can get some things done. I think that we can really move and push towards Grambling adopting this thing, and for the long, Lincoln Parish getting involved and doing the K-12 stuff too. So I'm going to send you my information. And you said that was G. Beckers at
SELU.edu. And that's one of our promotional pieces, like on our brochure and is to get your alum involved. It takes, you know, if you're a graduate of a university, reach out to, it's not just the university faculty saying, I want to do this, but if there's alums, everyone has alumni centers, then that's a big part of making this happen, is that the outside people in the community also supporting it.
Yeah, we'll even brainstorm, because I set up on the alumni chapter for Terrebonne Foods. We'll even bring it to them and see what we can do up on our end. You know, once when I reach out to you, we'll see what we can do, because I think this is so awesome what you guys are doing at these universities. And then you're trying to push for them not to only earn a certificate, but earn a degree, like Dr. McKee was saying. Like, that is just, I think we need to keep that ball up and keep that momentum going while we have it going.
Absolutely. And to get it permanent, if we can get it permanently in our legislation that like Florida has, so the programs can't be wiped away, which is, you know, we could do all this work and get all the things devoted and done, but then boom, the system doesn't want it anymore, and they just kind of wash us away. And I don't want to see that happen. I don't want to go backwards.
All right, thank y'all. We are getting close to 11 o'clock. I think Tamisha still has her hand up, and so we'll go with Tamisha.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I'll be real quick. I have some questions and a comment. I just want to say real fast, Dr. Beckers, I was literally brought to tears watching that video. I am so grateful. I was here 2 years ago when your work started, and I'm full of just seeing where y'all have come. This means a lot to families, because a lot of them, we push for lower education, inclusion, and for our kids to have equal opportunities. This continues that process when they're able to get, equality at the collegiate level, because that's a big part that, has been left out. So I thank you for everything you're doing. One of my questions is real quick, how do you address it? No, excuse me, let me back up. You mentioned that there's a monthly meeting. Is it open to the public, and when do y'all normally meet?
It's actually just the Core Alliance meeting members that we meet, and we try to meet the third Monday of the month.
Okay.
We technically don't have it open to the public because it's kind of how we meet as Alliance members to how we move forward.
Okay.
But then what we do from there is we trickle back to I would call them stakeholders in our areas, because our programs are so uniquely set, as in where they sit, that I'm in Southeast, and then we have Nichols and Thibodaux, and this UL Lafayette's over there. So we kind of put it back to our communities to get the support within what we need.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am. My next question, real fast. How do you address when a college that you've been in contact with states they don't have the funding that they need for these programs? What is your response? Because I find that that's one of the bigger issues that they use as a deterrent. So how do you all address that?
What we do, fortunately or fortunately, our programs start on donations. So we tell them to look for donations. And to look at the industries that are in their communities or in the surrounding areas, because that's a big way. If you can get the community buy-in to support it financially, programs like that. And the hard part is the startup money, because once you get enough students in the program, you're generating a revenue, because universities themselves don't have this overflowing amount of money. So you can't A program like this can't cost them thousands and thousands of dollars. But once you get programs to capacity, then there's a revenue coming in. So you're not always in the red. I've learned so much about this that it's like, so that's something that we have to, we look for donations, look for donors, apply for grants. Energy does a community grant. Blue Cross Blue Shield does grants. LSU is looking at their big industries and paper products, paper pulp plants and stuff like that. So those kind of resources within their communities to get funding. Now, universities have budgets and then foundations. We as in Lions Connected raised enough money that we started an endowment, because endowments are protected monies that generate monies. So it took us, and we had to have a minimum of $10,000, and we raised $10,000. It took me 2 years to do it. But then now I have an endowment that's protected money that's going to gain interest. It's not going to help me right now, but long-term it's going to help me. And I know Nichols, Mary's bro's working on that, try to get an endowment for Nichols. Again, it's a way to generate money. Funding is I would say the number one problem is funding.
Yes, ma'am. I'll be in touch with you. I appreciate you sharing the information and your contact. Thank you.
I appreciate all the comments, and I know how exciting it is when you're sitting in a room 2 years ago, hearing about this, putting it on our action plan for the DD Council, and then, helping to see it come to fruition with all the hard work that goes into the everyday work that Dr. Beckers and her colleagues have done. And so we appreciate that, and know it's the beginning and we're off to a good start, but we've got some more work to do. And I know that I've seen some of the comments about keeping this on our action plan and trying to get this on our legislative agenda for the DD Council. And we certainly, you have our support. We're supportive of that to continue our efforts. We are at almost 11 o'clock and we still have customized employment training with Kelly Monroe. So I'll ask if there's not any critical questions or comments that we finish out with Kelly.
So Mary, there are some questions in the chat. I'm not sure if you want me to read them or not.
Is Kelly on where she can start her presentation, and then I'll go back up through the chat to see if I can find the comments.
So Miss Mary, I'm presenting for Kelly. She
okay.
Make it, and she just emailed me something really short to read.
Okay, well then go ahead, and then we'll finish up with the comments.
And then just a suggestion for time, if you want to have Ebony just read the comments, and then that can perhaps be a follow-up at the next meeting or via email directly to the person that made the comment. Just a thought, because we have about a minute left. So Kelly Monroe is our contractor with customized employment training. That's activity 5.1.3. And again, you can find that in the FFY 2021 action plan. So she just emailed me a quick update to read to you guys. Customized employment is a fairly new model of service delivery that is focused on helping people who have disabilities obtain and maintain employment. This new model of service is customized to suit the strengths and preferences of the job seeker, as well as the needs of the employer. Training for customized employment is split into 3 sections: discovery, job development, and systemic instruction. In April, MG&A provided the first of the 3 sections, discovery. This training was provided over 6 days in April with 15 participants in attendance. Of those 15 participants, 8 were selected to move forward with the certification process in discovery. The discovery class began on June 7th. All participants are on schedule 2 and are expected to complete the discovery process and receive their certification. Currently, we are working on our next gateway training, which is the 2nd section, job development. This training is scheduled to take place in August via Zoom. The flyer for this training has been completed and sent to LRS and others for dissemination. Registration for this training opportunity is open and available for providers to register. And I believe if you look on the full status report, which is that document I referenced earlier, that's with the full council meeting packet, that update is there with a little bit more information.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, it is there.
Okay. I don't know by the chats how many messages were left that we needed to cover, or if there was, did you say you might be able to go through them after the meeting and see if there was something that we needed to address?
I think we have to read them.
Okay.
And that's kind of what Ebony was doing.
Okay.
I do have a correction on one thing. I did find the employment update in that status report. So I will hyperlink that in the summary. Ms. Corley had asked for that information as well as the link that Dr. Peterson provided during LDOE's update. And I'll put that in the summary as well. And then Ebony, do you want me to shoot it over to you?
Yes, I can read the questions. I'm not sure if Mary wants Dr. Beckers to address the questions, but Susan with Families Helping Families of Southwest Louisiana said, has there been any contact with Soila or McNeese in Lake Charles?
Yes, McNeese, Letty Goins, I'm working with her. I'm going there on the 29th to meet with them. I wrote down the other one, no. Problem we're dealing with in Lake Charles is all the natural disasters. So we have to be really careful with the Lake Charles area right now, but definitely I'm going on the 29th to meet on McNeese's campus. And I read the other one about the HBUCs. Every university in our state has been contacted. So, but if you know somebody that specifically, email me, because if I have a name saying, hey, so-and-so said to reach out to you, that's better than me sending an email or going and dropping off, informational cards in the video. I put the video on jump drives. So, but a name is always better. So definitely, if you're alum, you know someone, shoot me their name and I'll be happy to follow up. Or if I need to do it at administrative level, my dean will follow up. Again, higher education or systems are different. We have to be real careful on how we go up the chain.
Okay, so Ms. Karanda had another question, Dr. Beckers. Is LaPi working with LRS to connect with students prior to graduation so more will know about this opportunity?
Correct. The individual universities work with LRS at different levels, but that's a big piece of when we are providing technical support, is to make that connection, to make sure, one, the students all have, if they're eligible for services, to get the fundings and services, because they'll actually pay for part of their tuition if needed, and to make that continuation, because we as part of our goals try to employ our students. And if we can transition them into community-based employment through LRS, that is the ultimate goal to do. Because a lot of our students, they need to work within their communities. And so that's where LRS plays. Melissa Bayham I actually met her at a SEEK meeting and she got me hooked up and we've been working that avenue. A lot of networking has occurred through this project.
And then she had a third question. Also, is LaPi working to provide DDID individuals with the opportunity to obtain a BS degree?
That's going to have to come through accreditation and legislation. So that's, again, I never say no. I teach I taught special education, but we have to be real careful and real methodical on how we work to get that ultimate goal. And we'll have to define what diploma, what a degree is. Because right now with our universities and our SACS accreditation and our accrediting bodies, our students cannot earn a traditional degree. So we're going to have to be really careful on what we get and what it looks like to make sure everyone's successful.
Let's see. Dr. McGee says, Bambi, Dr. Becker, let's talk more about getting closer to legislation. Bambi had a comment, but she said I didn't have to read it out loud. Mitch Idgens says, I totally agree with Bambi. Nicole Banks says, I also agree. Good work is being done and we will get it into legislation. Ms. Corley has another question. Has LaPi brought the Board of Regents and Dr. Reed Hunter to the table to assist with bringing more post-secondary entities to the table?
We're working within our system right now, which except LSUA, we're all in the same with the UL system. So we're trying to follow those chain of command. So we'd be really careful as a body, and because we're all employed, as I talk about the alliance members, we're employed by the universities. We have to be careful how we approach the Board of Regents. So once we get on board with the UL system, and then Dr. Halpern at LSUA, they're working with the LSU system, then we'll go to the next level.
And then she had one other comment question. 15 individuals is not a lot of people from any region regarding participation in the forum. What is their plan to inform more individuals from the DDID community to participate, especially more diversity? Oh, I'm sorry. Well, that was regarding Miss Kelly Monroe's presentation.
We have more than 15 people.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that wasn't addressed to you, Dr. Becker. Sorry. I don't know if you want to forward that question to Kelly. Okay.
Yes, I have it down in the summary and I'll communicate that to Kelly and ask her to follow up at our next meeting. I apologize. She wasn't able to make it. Normally our council staff and our contractors will do updates together. And I don't know if you guys know, Courtney Ryland, who's over this contract, has left the council and she's in a different position in a different place. So we're gonna have to follow up with the contractor directly, but I'll make sure that that's done.
And I saw that about the chat and the video link. Please share it with everybody you know.
Thank you, Dr. Beckers. I have it in the chat and I'll have it hyperlinked in our summary now, and I can push it out as well. I think it would be a great social media post.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, are there any announcements? Okay, I know we have a full council meeting later this week. Marilee, is that Thursday?
Yes, so we have different committee meetings to the remainder of today and tomorrow, and our full council meeting is this Thursday. So for anybody that's interested in the full council meeting or any meeting that the council has, you can go to our meetings page on our website. You can see the dates and the times for every meeting we have coming up. You can see every agenda is hyperlinked, and there's a registration to register for any of those meetings. And that's always there, and it's always the same page. Brenton just posted it in the comments. And there's also our documents are linked there. So I referenced a couple times our status updates for Q3, that's in there.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for getting on the call today, and for our committee members for being present today, and all of our speakers. We appreciate all the updates and look forward to hearing from everybody for our next meeting in October. This is July, right? Yeah.
And I will not
quarterly meeting will be in October.
Yes, I will be here, you guys. You'll have another staff member helping you.
Thank you. Okay, do I need a motion to adjourn, or I can just say adjourn?
I think you can just say adjourn.
Yeah, okay. Well, we adjourn the meeting. Thank y'all.